Everyone, I'm back again, back with my hats. There are always so many things to think about in teaching. What I'm doing this time is going back to my digital and collaborative learning assignment 1 and having a look at what I can do to support my students so that we can develop some student agency. So we're back here again. Welcome back to Digital and Collaborative Learning in Context. Assignment 2 is asking us to have a look at and provide a justification for a digital and/or collaborative learning innovation that relates to research, literature, current educational policies and practice. So that's what I'm about to do next. So first up, let's recap assignment 1. We had to look at current challenges in our teaching practice, and for me this meant developing student agency in my classroom in order to encourage student accountability and empowerment. When I reflected on my current practices, I realised that one of my biggest challenges was managing to cater for the diversity in learning within my classroom. So that's looking at students' backgrounds, interests, current academic viewpoint, motivation and engagement, learning styles and their needs, perceived and actual. And I decided after all this that really what I needed to look at was the fact that something in my practice has allowed students to feel that their learning is my job and not theirs. So if I move forward with these challenges, I'm looking at these things. I need to fill my classroom with student voice, delight the curiosity in my students, help them to be the directors of their own learning, put the accountability back on the students and build drive, resilience and participation through whatever innovation I'm using next. I need to try and use something that's going to help me to see as many students as possible and to cover as much as we can. And I need this to be visible so that the students can see it, their peers can, their whānau and the teacher as well. So I was looking at student agency and I really like this quote. It's talking about the fact that student agency refers to empowering students through curriculum approaches that engage them, are respectful of and seek their opinions, give them opportunities to feel connected to school life, promote positive and caring relationships between all members of the school community, promote well-being and focus on the whole student, relate to real-life experiences and are safe and supportive. So where can we go to find something that's going to help us to build all this in our learning environments, because we know how important all these things are already. So where to from here? Firstly, I need to identify tools and practices that will help to increase student voice and an active student participation in their individual learning process. I need to develop some student agency. So using digital and collaborative tools to develop student agency. Well, there are loads of tools for developing student agency. Let's have a look. Firstly, we've got those that help to build learning in front of students for them to have a look at. Then we've got the ones that allow us to add all our resources to one place so that students can personalise their learning in that way. We've got the collaborative ones. And then finally, we've got the ones that allow them to showcase their learning and to personalise what they're doing, ensuring that they're active in their learning process. If we go down the list, there are loads. Google Apps for Education has a whole suite of tools that are useful for ensuring that students are able to personalise their learning, that we can get tools and templates to students really easily, and that we can help to track their learning process. So there's the Google Docs and Drive, Google Classroom, Google Presentations, all those sorts of things. There are also all those video-based and interactive tools that are out there already, such as Khan Academy, TED-Ed, Kahoot. There are the ones that allow them to showcase their learning, like Blogger and Google Sites, and for us to organise things like Blend Space. There are tons of collaborative tools, such as Today's Meet and Subtext, that allow us to get our students gathered into a place where they can actually be interactive and social in their learning. And there are those that allow us to help to organise things, such as Google Plus, where we can gather additional resources that might be suitable for our students. When I looked at the tools for developing student agency in terms of finding tools that were both collaborative and digital, there were some that really stuck out for me, and they were the Google Apps for Education suite. The reason that I think these are so user-friendly are that they actually meet all the needs of what I'm looking for. When we're making a change to our teaching practice, we want to look at current policies and pedagogies that are already in place that are going to guide us really in the decisions that we're making around our students' learning. If we have a look at current policies and practice in New Zealand education at the moment, there are a number of guiding forces out there. Firstly, if we look at kahikatea, national standards and the New Zealand curriculum, there are quite a number of things that are pointing us in the direction of having our students at the forefront of their learning as active participants. Kahikatea looks at having strong engagement and contribution from students, parents and whānau. So we need to be thinking about our digital and collaborative tools, enabling us to be able to get as many people on board, as many stakeholders on board as possible. National standards in the New Zealand curriculum look at having teachers at the forefront, prompting students, asking questions, getting specific teaching points out in front of them, explaining and providing specific questions around their learning in order to further what they're doing and move them forward. These are all really important things to keep in mind if we're looking at deciding on a digital and collaborative tool. There are also some fabulous resources out there in terms of the research that's already been done. If we look at the Best Evidence Synthesis report, some of the things that are coming out strongly in that are the importance of collaborative and group work with individual accountability and the ability for students to practice social skills. It's suggesting that ICT use should be integrated across the curriculum, across pedagogical approaches, and as a tool for learning as opposed to the technology learning that's going on around that. Nancy Suller's written a fabulous book that talks about how students should be empowered to take over their learning. She looks at internet-based tools working collaboratively in and out of the classroom and ensuring that students have equitable access to these things. The Pearson assessment looks at more exchanges related to planning. So here are those hats again. How can I make sure that I'm getting some high agency happening in my classroom and that my tools are still digital and collaborative? How do they work for student agency? So if we want high agency in a classroom, we're looking at having the classroom working so that it's student-centred, so that there's strong student voice. It's got a constructivist approach. The kids are really active in what they're doing. They're actually doing to be learning. There's a little element there of having some elective choice. Really important for students to feel that they've got some control over their own learning. There's some intent participation and students are, as I said, in control. If we have a look at Google Apps for Education in terms of these things, it's student-centred because it allows student focus on personal goals. This means that we can actually help the students to personalise their learning and to learn how to learn and where to go to find the information that's going to ensure their success. It allows students to be really vocal in their learning process, so that idea of student voice within student agency is going to be well met with Google Apps for Education. It also allows students to be active in their goal setting and the tracking of their learning so that we can be sure that they are aware of and tracking those habits and mindsets and pathways for learning. It allows for some student choice because the ability to insert digital links or create online resources where students can go to access through a portal means that we're not just stuck with students doing the same old thing over and over again. There's a real focus on their learning through their role and them actually being aware of what their role as the learner is. With all those goals and resources in front of them, they're fully aware that they're the ones in the driver's seat. They're in control because they're active and participatory in this. They're able to construct the learning in front of themselves with their peers, and they're also able to be guided by the teacher to find the resources that they really need to best meet their own learning goals. So there we are. Using Google Apps for Education is going to help me increase the student agency in my classroom. It's going to help with student voice. It's definitely going to make a shift in how engaged the students are and involved in their actual learning process. There's a wealth of information out there. I've looked at a variety of it, from policy to practice to a lot of online resources, which you'll find here. There's still a lot more out there on offer. Thanks for listening though. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to the next part of the process, looking at student agency with my students.